Welcome to our show. We have Scott Frampton, co-founder, Landscape Renovations, Minneapolis, Minnesota. One of my oldest clients, a good friend, sometimes racing buddy, and an excellent entrepreneur, landscape business owner with absolute passion for our industry. This guy just loves what he does. We have a special show here where we get into, of course, his history and learning lessons, but also into the differences between bid build and design build. Here's a quick summary of some of the things you're going to learn here. You're definitely going to learn about how he started the business and his original vision that has really driven his growth over years, if not decades, the importance of vision. You're going to learn about the alliances he formed early on with outside partners and even clients that helped him drive towards success over and over again. It's really eye-opening. Of course, we'll talk about bid build versus design build, similarities and differences. He'll also talk about the challenges of rapid growth and how he had to make certain decisions that really helped him maintain that growth. But also, he'll talk about how he staffed early on that set him up for that growth, key positions that he brought on early on before most companies would ever think of doing that at their size. And so chicken and egg, and he talks about how he put both the chicken and the egg together. We also touch on the bilingual COO he has in his company and the great benefit that that brings. And so Scott's got a lot of great things going on in his business. And we end off talking about a great sport/hobby he followed as a young adult. He almost had a totally different career before he got into landscaping. And it's going to follow a sport that he was very big into and competing in. You'll learn about that at the end. With no further ado, let's jump right in. Scott Frampton, welcome to our show.
Thank you for having me, Jeffrey.
Scott, tell the audience about your business. Where are you guys right now? What's your makeup? Give us a 2-minute overview.
Yeah, very good. We are Landscape Renovations. We're a 25-year-old business, 100% residential. We're approximately 80% residential construction and 20% residential maintenance. Of that, we are about 60% design build and 40% bid build. And that used to be a flick until we recently acquired a landscape architecture firm.
And you've got one partner.
So I have one partner, my fellow founder, and then we recently added as a partner the founder of the landscape architecture firm.
So 25 years, long time. And I know some of your story, but take us a couple minutes through, give us your origin story and how you got here.
Yeah, very good. My business partner and I worked in my dad's business since we were probably 15 years old, working on construction crew, doing a variety of things, enhancements, everything from enhancements to full landscape builds. And we worked for his company until 1999. But during that journey in my dad's company, I really found a passion for bid build work, both in commercial and residential. But it was really in that experience with that business where I was probably 21, 22 years old, right around 1990. I took a trip to the Mid-Am show in Chicago. Have you ever been to that show?
I have. Yeah.
And I was blown away. I'm just a kid early in the business and completely blown away. I had no idea the industry was that big. I had no idea Chicago was that big. That's kind of funny. The first morning I went to breakfast in the hotel and the bill for the breakfast was like $13. And I'm like, oh my God, I never paid more than $5 for breakfast, I think, in my life up to that point. So Anyway, I went down to the show floor and saw the award displays. I was blown away by those displays. I want to build those projects. So I really spent a lot of time learning about those type of projects, who was building them, who was designing them. And that really led me to where we ultimately began our business. And prior to that, I had actually wanted to be a landscape architect. But through my experience working in my dad's company, I really realized that I had a passion for the business and building the business more than I had in landscape architecture, sitting at the desk doing the drawing.
And so you and your partner said, "Hey, we're leaving my dad's business. We're going to kick off. We're going to do bid build." Is that how it went?
Something like that. We started doing bid build work in my dad's business, not long after that fateful journey to Chicago. And I was actually, directing the business into that area of expertise, I guess, really starting to focus in the bid build work. We were still doing a significant amount of design build. We had designers on staff, we even architects on staff at the time. And when we started our business, it was really from scratch, from nothing. And we were simultaneously doing bid build, design build in the same mode at that time.
Okay. So your business is 25 years old. You've been in our peer group community for how many years?
I think this is our 13th season.
Lucky 13. I remember years ago when you did this study, and I know you're very, you're a data-driven kind of leader. And I remember you did a study and you realized that bid build made you more money than design build. Now, did that come from the study, or did the study just prove what was in your gut?
It really came from the study. It really did. I think that looking at the two types of business individually as kind of departments within the company, how are we doing? And that is where we got that data. And it's still true to this day.
Explain to the audience. Now, there's different kinds of bid build. So explain exactly your sub niche and share why it does better for you than design build.
Yeah, that's a great question. So our sub niche is really invitation type work, custom home primarily, and not the low cost, high volume type of bid build. So people are reaching out to us, asking us either to team up with them as the only contractor that they're working with, or perhaps they're reaching out to 2 or 3 contractors and we're one of those. And in both of those cases, obviously the pricing isn't only, the job isn't going to be won on lowest price. The job is likely going to be won on greatest competency. And that allows for a little bit better price on the project. And because it is a full set of landscape architecture plans that are very well thought out and detailed, they go all the way to the construction document. So rather than a schematic design or a sketch, you're really working from a full and detailed multi-page construction document where everything is really pre-planned, thought out, material list, everything specified. So there's much lower risk in that type of work. If there is a change or something's not working along the way, you're able to talk about that on whether it be a change order or a favorable negotiation.
Okay. How did you get into such a venerable position where you or your company's on the short list? 25 years in business, started off as this lanky, I'm assuming, lanky kid from Minneapolis. How did you do that? And if somebody wanted to do what you're doing, give us the secret sauce. And how many years did it take?
I think the cliche is when luck and opportunity meet, right? Hard work, luck, and opportunity. I think it really did start with the hard work and the vision. So following that fateful trip to Chicago, my sole vision was to do that. And just as a young person, as a kid, and just kind of sticking to it and really putting all my heart, soul, and effort and energy into doing that. That's really what started it. And then having the right strategic partners early that had faith, confidence, and trust in me and our company and what we did as a team, and performing at a high level, in communication, construction, execution, all of those important things is really what made it happen. That's it.
Well, it's, little segue here. I was reading that the problem with history books, especially about war, the problem with books like that is they knit everything together so neatly, but apparently if you read diaries during war, it's total chaos.
Yeah, for sure.
Like fog and chaos. And so you've just given me the history book version of how you got here. But how long did it take and what kind of chaos did you go through?
I feel like, how long did it take? What do you mean? How long did what take?
What do I mean? You didn't just say, hey, we're going to go after this business and then the top tier builders are hiring you. And so how long did that take?
Well, I think it took about 9 years.
9 years.
Yeah, it took about 9 years.
So break that up into a couple steps. Like we were working for the low tier guys, then the medium tier, then the high tier. I mean, I'm making up the story. You tell us what it is.
I think it really was, a somewhat of a stereotypical education where you're working with the stereotypical general contractors and builders that generally are leveraging all the trades for their benefit all the time, realizing those aren't the type of people I want to work with, and having the opportunity to work with a select small number of high quality general contractors and builders that had different high quality outcomes in mind. Like the outcome was the number one priority versus their individual benefit, if that makes any sense.
It does.
And so just, like going through the painful process of always working for general contractors that are trying to leverage all of their trades and not work together as partners. Really narrowed my focus.
Okay. So it really was your vision for where you're trying to get to. And I'm assuming unwillingness to compromise your quality to meet these rascals' exploitative demands of you, and then just saying no and turning them down, I'm assuming, over time, and opening up capacity for better contractors to work with.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And the quality cliche is something that has always just really been difficult I can never see myself saying we are the highest quality or we're the best or we're like, those cliches really just get under my skin. I would rather just do that work at the highest quality and let you see for yourself. And I want to work with people like that they see our work, and as good as we think we are, they tell me to do better. And that's the type of people I want to work with.
Gotcha.
Or they have ideas bigger than my ideas.
Yeah.
I've never even thought about how to put that together. And we're putting that together. That's the type of work that I'll enjoy and we enjoy doing as a company to this day.
So it's a real partnership.
Absolutely. It's a partnership. It's a partnership.
If I had them on this podcast talking about working with you, do you think they would say, oh, we're in a total partnership?
Absolutely. Yeah, they would say we're a team, we're partners for sure. We refer to each other in conversations, partners. We really avoid words like subcontractor and general contractor. We talk about teams and partners regularly.
Yeah. My dad always tells a story of, it's a longer story, but I'm going to give you sort of the the last minute of it. When we got hired by the Tisch family that owns the Giants and Lowe's hotels, and they asked him to do basically a type of work we had never done before, which was, let's just call it project management on a very large scale. We were like, we can do that piece, this piece, that piece, this piece, that piece, this piece. And the Tisches were like, okay, we want you to just do the whole thing. And they sort of forced my dad to make that proposal. And they just went to the back page of the proposal, looked at it, signed it, and off we went. But he didn't really understand, and this is going back decades, but he didn't understand what the super wealthy wanted. And, and today it's almost like we take it for granted, right? The delivering the whole project. But for him, it was eye-opening. And I'm just bringing up the story to say, you find the right partner client and they will pull you up to that next level.
So that's a great, I'm glad you brought that up. So, when we started Landscape Renovations, our first year, our revenue was pretty extraordinary, I thought. And as we were building these partnerships, that's exactly what happened. We had to grow our capacity to meet the demand of the people that we had suddenly found ourselves partnering with. And for the first 10 years, because that happened bigger and faster than I ever expected or realized, and what my business partner and I talked about was, we kind of have two choices. We either have to grow to meet their demand and capacity, and we really have to, or they're going to find somebody else to do it. Those were our two choices. So we early on, we stopped doing any type of external marketing. We stopped seeking out residential business that wasn't referral or repeat customer. And we put all of our attention to servicing these clients that were bringing us along for the ride, so to speak. And that's all we had time and capacity for. But that was the chaos, because we were really not building any systems or any internal operation expertise or any processes or SOPs or any of that. We were just getting work done at a very high level.
So you and your partner, Bob, did he handle like design build and you handled bid build, or did you guys split it up that way?
Yeah, in the early years, that's exactly how we kind of split it. So my business partner, Bob, he was doing primarily design build for that phase of our business development. And one of our legacy employees that came along from my father's company, he's still with us to this day. He and I focused on the bid build customers.
Who can you say his name?
Jim Kozowski.
Oh, Jim. Dang. He goes way back, huh?
He goes way back. And sadly, he's only got a couple years left in his career. But I would say Jim, he's kind of like the mad scientist engineer of landscape construction. He can take a 25, 30-page plan set and really precisely build that detail in his head, price every aspect it in a profitable way, and ask a lot of good questions about the success or potential failure of that design element without being, without jeopardizing the delicate relationship with the landscape designer, if that makes any sense.
But, you guys are like the three musketeers, huh?
Excuse me.
You probably could build a chat bot with all the plans he's estimated. Something to think about.
Yeah, perhaps. That sounds complicated, Jeff. I don't know.
It's a lot less complicated than doing it than you think. We'll have to talk about that offline.
All right.
Build a little knowledge base with all his know-how. Okay, so
it's and speaking of that know-how, I mean, you have a lot of people in your community and a lot of people with different capabilities and experiences, and we, just as an industry, as we're, growing up, the type of projects that people want to build, I would say the type of knowledge that we're seeing that, whether they're educated in a landscape architecture program or some other college type of program and their experience in the landscape industry. There is very few people that have that level of expertise that I've seen along the way.
Okay. So bid build, you've given us a view into it. And then you told us recently you've flipped the ratio and now you're larger in design build. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So I think, as we evolve in our careers and our businesses mature and our strategic partners mature alongside of us, the dynamics change, the relationships change, opportunities change. And in bid build and the type of unique small niche that we have, it's a very, very small network. And in order to grow any further than what we've had, because we were filling all the capacity need that we were getting, we realized that we were going to have to explore some new opportunities. And that's where we decided to begin working design build again. Still in the same custom home niche, but working with more partners overall.
Do you want to share more how you went about that?
Meaning the acquisition or how we came up with the strategy or?
Yeah, both.
Which part? So I think it really was identifying a number of years ago that in order to grow, we would need to start looking beyond our small niche that we were in. And whether we hire a landscape architect or several landscape architects to do that internally, or we partner with an established firm, that was kind of the early vision. And we gradually worked on building that vision out, both internally with hires and externally with that acquisition. It was gradual. It wasn't like a switch was flipped. It's been a slow process, but it's happened.
Yeah. So you brought that firm on.
Yes.
And now you're doing more DB. So you got into your sweet spot with bid build.
Yeah.
And I guess now you have to tackle design build. And are you trying to mimic all the benefits of bid build or just exploit the differences in design build?
We're kind of, we're trying to run it almost the same way, where the landscape architects develop the plans and they've got that early customer relationship. We bring it into our project management, we price it, bid it, and then we build the job. So we basically run it the same way as bid build.
In the old days, I remember we used to sell against architects. This is going back a couple decades. But we would sell against LAs by saying because we're design and build, we don't need to go through a complex drawing process. We save you some time and money. This is what we said. And whether it's true or not in hindsight. But did you ever sell that way? And are you changing the way you sell now?
We've never sold that way. I'm a firm believer in fully developed construction documents. I think if you've got the right kind of client that's willing to work in a design as you go or a schematic design where there's a lot of things that are up for interpretation, and they understand that it's not a fixed bid price, and you can work in that type of collaborative relationship with the client, I think it can be successful. But often in that, what you're describing, Jeffrey, I feel like the designs aren't going to be fully developed. And once you get into a spot where there's something that wasn't fully designed, having that discussion with the customer about who's responsible for developing what needs to be developed in order to get the outcome they're asking for, that gets to be difficult.
Okay, so you have built a system, and whether it's bid build or design build, you're going to operate the same way.
For the most part, yes. For the most part.
What's different? Where are the deviations?
I think the deviation, as you were describing it, in design build, we will there's the potential that we're getting projects that are less fully developed in design. So that can happen. It can happen in good build too, but I don't know. There's really not a simple answer for it. I would say 75% of the plans we get internally or externally are fully developed construction documents. 25% are schematic design. They're not fully developed. And I'd say of that 25%, probably 20% of them are design build. The 5%, the smallest portion, are bid build.
Gotcha.
It's more of the schematic design.
Do you convert do you have a similar success ratio converting to maintenance, bid build versus design build?
I would love to tell you that we track that, but we don't. I would say probably pretty equal.
You don't track it because you're so dang good at it, it's just not worth tracking, or you're so dang bad at it? I'm joking on that, but
that's all right. We're really good at building landscapes and not so good at tracking sales metrics.
Okay. But you have given a big emphasis to maintenance, I think, in the last X number of years. But as a percentage, it sounds like it's not really catching up because install is just growing.
Exactly. And you've kind of said that all along. If your install build is growing, you're not likely going to catch up with maintenance. It's kind of going at the same pace. I think in order for us to catch up to construction, we would likely need to do an acquisition of maintenance, most likely. Because you simply, in residential maintenance, if your average account is $20,000, it's going to take a large volume of $20,000 accounts to get to the construction revenue that we have.
Yeah.
We'd have to go outside in the commercial or somehow scale it a different way.
Is that a real number, about $20,000 a year in maintenance?
I would say that's a gut number. Again, it's something we don't closely track, but I'd say that's a pretty accurate number. I think it's kind of difficult to do high-end maintenance on a large property for less than that. Not really be my gut.
I was going to say, it depends how big the properties are. Like, that's the driving factor.
Yeah.
In Connecticut, that would be a low number, for these large properties.
Yeah, for sure. And many of them are much larger than that. Or there's hardly any small. The number's probably bigger than 20. It might be close to 30 at that.
Yeah. And I'm just curious now. And so how well do you do enhancement selling? And do you involve your designers in that? Or is that like a separate design-oriented staff that does the enhancements?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. We early on, we moved one of our landscape designers into maintenance, and she's a maintenance account manager. So she has that design capability. She has a design mind. We ask her not to do any design work because it's time consuming. So if it actually needs a design, we move it over to construction, but they do it collaboratively. Like, she's usually communicating with the client and the designers working on the design and development. But many of the enhancements are that, they're pretty big projects all by themselves.
Yeah, I can imagine. So what is your role, Scott, in all of this? You have a big machine going on here. Yeah. A lot of moving parts.
I feel very fortunate that, working in the peer group community and seeing a lot of different ways of operating and running businesses, and with your guidance and coaching along the way, I've been able to develop a rockstar team. My business partner, our landscape architecture partner, our CFO, our COO, our operations manager, our maintenance manager. We just really have a fantastic team that is able to, run a business and really focus on all of the important things in the client customer service, the employee satisfaction, which has allowed me to continue working on what's next for landscape renovations, and that occasionally putting out some customer service fires or some employee fires that come up from time to time. and really do spend a lot of time focusing on future roles in the business, looking up the ad org chart. We've been working on that 3-year org chart, kind of seeing how our growth might develop. Have a new interest in marketing, which I had not really had much of an interest in, or spending some time on bot. Well, that's what I've been working on.
So because you've been a member of our peer group for so long, I know all the backstories, or some of them at least, right? Maybe more than I should.
Most, yeah, probably most.
Yeah. And so your mom was your controller or accountant.
Yeah.
And then when she retired or stepped down, maybe from being the primary, that gave you the opportunity to bring in an actual CFO. And that was what, 8 years ago or 7 or?
No, it's been, I think it's been as long as we've been with you, or maybe 10 or wow. So we've probably been with you longer than I realized. I think we started in 2011. It's 2015, so it's probably 13 years ago.
Yeah,
CFO, and we've been with you 14.
So you were ahead of your time. You were a lot smaller back then. You brought in a CFO, and I think that was people look for the right time to bring in that next level, and it's very chicken and egg. And I think you guys bringing it in early helped you jump to that next level.
Yeah, it was really, Bob, my partner, and I, and my mom, we were really struggling with future casting, looking ahead. And we weren't working with you yet, and we were trying to figure out how we could budget better for the future and work more on our financial future versus our financial past. So the CPA mother that I have, she is very, very, very good at looking at the financial past. She did not have a skill set at all for the financial future. And that's where and Bob and Al were so immersed in the day-to-day building of the business, operating and selling everything else. We just had no time and no skill, to be honest, for looking at the financial future. That's why we brought the CFO on.
Yeah. And he's still with you today.
He's still with us today.
So you were ahead of your time in that. And recently you hired and then promoted someone into the COO position. I'm just going to guess that you're going to look back in a couple of years and say, gosh, we should have done that sooner.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And obviously, the young man and he's a unique individual all unto himself. Right. So I think in the case of him and a lot of our team, he's just such a special person that, even if he didn't have a title, what he does in the company is incredibly important.
Yeah.
And I think many COOs are probably much more scientific potentially. They're really looking at data and metrics and operational efficiencies and effectiveness and so forth. And perhaps we have the wrong title for the individual because he's really more focused on the success of the humans on a day-to-day basis, I think is where he comes in and their satisfaction, and just kind of really a cultural ambassador in many ways.
But he is implementing a lot of processes and change management, I was going to say, but changing your org chart and your work processes. And so he's definitely doing integrator work.
Oh, absolutely. I certainly didn't mean to undervalue any of that at all. Absolutely is doing that. And we one of the things that I've identified, because he is Hispanic, many of us culturally think of the Hispanics that work on our teams, and their cultural norms are significantly different than our cultural norms. We're very lucky with Jose, where his culture, where he came from and what he is, he's bicultural. So he's able to understand our culture and where we're coming from and what our pain points are just as easily as he's able to understand the people from his culture, which is just really a blessing.
So he's bilingual. He grew up in Mexico, but he's got a executive MBA. Is he an engineer as well?
So he's an engineer. He's an engineer, and not an MBA, but an engineer, and but thinks like an MBA in many ways. I think so. And he's a young man, and been with us. This is his fourth season. It won't be long where he'll have such an understanding of the business that we're going to launch at a rocket ship, I'm sure.
Yeah. And I'm kind of laying all this out for the audience to think about, God, who should my second in command be? And too many people think in terms of, that it's almost impossible to find somebody because they'll never understand bid build or how to construct a wall, or, they think in terms of what we do, the work, and not in terms of the business and the process and really the bigger picture. But he definitely brings the bigger picture. And if he doesn't have an MBA, he's worked for outside consulting, international consulting firms,
Yeah,
which
absolutely.
I just think MBA when I think about his experience.
Yeah.
And if you're willing to look for somebody outside the green industry, but with that general management experience, there's a lot of potential hires out there, a lot of people out there. Not like Jose, but just in general.
Eye-opening. It's truly an eye-opening experience. You got somebody from a completely different industry that works in a completely different way than we do. And we're a bit of a legacy company because we've been in it our entire lives, essentially. So just having that different mindset and process and system and how to work with people compared to what we've historically done, it's just eye-opening.
Take off like a rocket ship. So what's next for Landscape Renovations, Scott? Where's the rocket ship going?
It's and it's kind of silly I said that, but because I'm not a rocket ship kind of that's not me. I'm not rocket ship. I'm more steady and slow. I don't like to go so fast that we lose control of how we do what we do, and if we have unsatisfied customers, it really both my partner and I, it's just something that we just don't like dealing with, and you don't want any unhappy customers, and we want to grow as fast as we reasonably can and continue to have a skilled workforce that will allow us to have happy customers all the time.
Compound interest is an interesting concept here. So you may be growing slow, but at your size, you're still going to take off.
Absolutely. It's the rule of 72. I think I'm aiming a little lower than that, and for growth. But yes, we've forecast about 10 years, and we've looked at our historical average, and we kind of understand where we're headed towards. So and we've kind of been designing our chart accordingly. And there's a point, I think, and you probably see this in all of the peer groups, where whether it be organic or external marketing or acquisitions, at some point there's a plateau you reach through marketing and in organic marketing to where you'll likely have to do acquisitions to continue to provide opportunity for your staff to grow in their careers.
Yeah. And if I'm in your seat, I'd be looking for outside the box ways to grow maintenance. In fact, that would probably keep me awake at night if I was Scott Frampton.
Well, I will. You asked me about it, and maybe I didn't answer the question very well, but I suspect I probably spend at least 50% of my day-to-day time in maintenance-related activities with that in mind. It's exactly what you described.
I got to tell you, that's unique, Scott. Most owners that you meet, that I meet, that started their whole company on the install side, that's where they spend a huge chunk of their time. Always, often putting out fires or dealing with the next opportunity. So that's a good answer.
It's interesting. I've probably mentioned this to you before. For sure talked to the peer group about it. It's, when you're in the career as long as we and I have been, um, what you start out really loving and having a passion for and enjoying, those dynamics change over the years, right? So I still really love building complicated, beautiful landscape construction projects. But we have a team that is so good at it, they don't need me. They don't need me to do, they don't even want to hear what I have to say. It's just like, they got this, right? So that allows me to have a whole new passion within the business on how can we care for these properties and how can we grow that team to be as extraordinary as our construction team. And we're getting there.
That's exciting.
Mm-hmm.
So, any final words of wisdom you want to leave for someone who's listening and they're in design build or bid build and they want to, they want to add one of those to their portfolio?
What age of business you are probably has a lot to do with how I would answer that question. If it was a young person starting out, I would say grow your capabilities little by little, understanding where your talent lies. I see a lot of young landscape design build companies or landscape companies in general. They seem to be very good at hardscapes and maintenance, but they're not so good at the horticulture, if that makes any sense. Like the horticulture, trees, shrubs, care, planting, how to put them in the ground properly, etc. So develop those capabilities so that you're fully rounded if you're really going to go after bid build work in the high-end niche. But part of that is like deciding what niche do I want to be in? Do I want to be in, high-end? Do I want to be low price, competitive bid? Pick your niche and stick to that niche and perfect it. You and I both know people that are in the low bid, competitive, commercial business and bid build that are very successful. They're highly efficient. They're highly systemized. They make great money doing it and they love it. So I think there's not one that's better than the other. It's really just deciding on it, grow your capabilities, perfect it, get better at it, continue doing it over and over, repeat your success.
That's a great answer. Great response. Hey, little sidebar here before we wrap up.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't you used to be a mechanic for a race team? When in your career did that happen?
So it probably started out right about the same time I decided I wanted to make landscape my career. I was probably 14 or 15 years old that long ago. And I started out racing myself and ultimately could no longer afford to do it as I was getting ready to go to school and start out in life. So I switched to being a mechanic for a professional race team.
Well, you have to give more detail to the listening audience. They don't quite know what you mean, racing.
Racing snowmobiles. So in Minnesota, that's what we do. We race snowmobiles.
And so were you a traveling mechanic? Did you go around with the team?
We traveled Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, Michigan, North Dakota. Yeah.
Wow.
Mostly,
that's crazy.
Mostly ice racing in those days. So on either lakes or ice ovals, and an occasional snowcross in the powder.
Crazy.
Snowcross wasn't huge yet. It was mainly ice racing.
Well, I'm going to have to get you back on the 4-wheel track with me. And then we'll have at it again.
Yeah, can't wait. That'll be really exciting.
Get you out of the Miata into something more dangerous.
Yeah, I'm ready for the GT3. I can't believe what that car is capable of.
All right. Here's what you wish for.
Yeah, you're wondering, is he really ready?
I don't know. Is your insurance ready is what I was wondering.
Oh, yeah, I think so. I think I'm pretty well covered.
All right.
I got a long-term disability. I'm well covered.
No, you're well covered. Hey, you mentioned a few times about being in the peer group, and I mentioned that as well. You want to just kind of share a minute on your experience within our community?
Yeah, I think, my experience was, and I shared this with my business partner early on as we were deciding to join a peer group. This is before we joined you, and we were trying to figure out who to join and what to do and how to do it. I said, hey, listen, neither of us have MBAs in business. We understand landscape construction very, very well. And if we want to maximize our profitability and our growth and become better business owners, we need to join with people that are professional business people. And that was really the catalyst to why we joined your group. We tried some other consulting firms and we tried some other peer group opportunities. One of my friends here had a marine business, and he really talked highly of the peer group experience that he had. And then I met you, and I could immediately tell it was the right fit, and we're still here today.
Sorry, I had to unmute there. Yeah, we survived. We survived all the shenanigans, and you guys have really, not only grown but really transformed through the process and over the years. I'm impressed. I'm proud. Did you know that you would be where you are today, or did you wonder, looking back, gosh, I wonder how this will turn out?
That's another really good question. I feel like the part of the peer group experience that I really enjoyed and was looking forward to is, and I mentioned in my bio to you, early on, I started getting very involved in our state association. And one of the things I really enjoyed in the committee experience and on the board experience was working with professionals that are really focused on high quality outcomes in the business, right? And that's what I really enjoy with the peers. And in that early on experience, I could tell if I could build my team with the people that think like that, there was no limit to what we could do. So as we were talking earlier about the COO, that's how I believe. Like, if I have the right team, like that individual, my business partner and business development, a great landscape architecture and maintenance team, there's no limit to what we can do with the right people.
That's a great way to look at it. My leadership team back in my business should look like, our Leaders Edge peer group here of peers that I'm hanging out with.
Yeah. And excellent. I think along the way, some of the peers that are not aligned with those types of values, they gradually decide, oh yeah, this is not the right thing for us. And they kind of, they go a different direction. And I think that's part of what makes the group healthy is people decide, hey, these guys are kind of going this direction, and I kind of ready to stick, and
yeah, I had a client leave recently. He's like, you know what? I don't want to grow. Mm-hmm. And it was really clear to me. And he literally, it's like, I want to keep this right where it is. And this group really isn't for me, because everyone here wants to keep growing.
Mm-hmm.
Scott, this has been excellent. I really appreciate you and your time and the knowledge that you shared here today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Jeffrey. I really appreciate the opportunity and all the great experiences we've had together and what I've learned along the way. I really appreciate it.